Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, beautiful Lou. Thank you so much for being here. Can you please tell the audience who you are and what it is that you do?
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So my business is Abundance and Beyond, and I love empowering women to achieve financial freedom through lending. And I deal with a lot of women going through divorce or separation. And my commitment is they either buy something in their own name or keep the family home or buy a property in their own name. So that's one of my hats. I also mentor new brokers to the industry, and I love being able to give back to new brokers because I've been in the industry for a very long time. And I'm also dabble a little bit in politics. So one day I'd like to be part of state council. And I also do mentoring for women in business as well through She Evolve Collective.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so lots of different hats that you wear. Let's try and cover all of them. And if I veer off track and I miss something, please bring us back. Can we start with the lending? So I'll add to that. So I guess you've got some context around my knowledge and understanding and also where my gaps are. So I went through my own divorce back it's probably 10 years ago now. I think I got a bit lucky in the sense I found a really great lawyer who actually, side note, I ended up coaching 5 years after the divorce, which was
wow.
beautiful. It was a collaborative law process as well, so different to the litigious. As I said, we got very lucky that we had my son's best interests at heart and I was advocating for myself. But I know that my story is actually quite rare. A lot of women go through losing money and stress and anxiety. I mean, it was stressful. Don't get me wrong. It was big. But yeah, I was determined to come out of it, with my feet on the ground. So when you say lending, I know a lot about property advocacy because I've got a couple of women in my community who are in that space.
Yep.
In terms of property advocacy versus lending, like where would you come in to that?
That's a good question. So a lot of the time I come in very early because sometimes, I find that my clients, when they see the lawyer, out of the first meeting, the lawyer goes, okay, let's see if you've got the borrowing capacity to keep the family home. So generally they come to me pretty quickly in the transaction of the starting process of when it's very raw to them. Mm-hmm. And then I work with them until the end, which can be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how long it takes. As you probably know, Debbie, it takes quite a while to get to the end road. Mm-hmm. But in between, we work for solutions. So we might look at them being able to afford keeping the family home, or they're a little bit short. So we talk about whether they've got family that can contribute a gift for them, or whether they transfer the title into a sibling. I have a lot of siblings buying together now because it maximizes your borrowing capacity. So I just had a lady the other day who hasn't had a home for 20 years since she went through a divorce, similar age to me in her 50s. And she was referred to me through a dance mum, and they said, we want to buy a property together. Is it doable? And I said, absolutely. So the daughter's 25, single, wants to help mum out. And so she was able to buy a property that way. So there is ways around it. It's just sometimes we have to look at some different options. Often I have to work in with the client's financial planner if there's more assets and we need to sort of get rid of some assets and then work out the flow of monies. And I also working with the lawyer because, as you know, as I said before, there's, it takes time to get to a certain level. Sometimes they think they only need a certain amount. Then when they go back to court, the ex-partner's asking for more. Then we have to come back and revise the figures. Mm-hmm. So what I really love working with the women is it's a safe space. I have a lot of women texting me on weekends saying, this has just come up. What do I need to do? And I'm here from the start to the finish because my mum went through the same thing when I was about 15. Oh, wow. So I'm very passionate that they have a safe space, these women, to be able to, work through the process. And, I have a lot of women that don't even know how to do online banking. So I help them with that because, often there is the situation where they've never done paying bills, all those sorts of things. Even connections, I speak to them about connections when they, buy a new home. So there's lots of different things that we can support them in. Yes. And sometimes they just call for a chat because they're overwhelmed, So it is a long process, but I'm so committed that they're able to do something in their own name when they go through the terrible time of what they need to do to part their assets.
And what a blessing to have someone like you. And I'm getting the sense that it's almost like a one-stop shop with your mentorship. And we haven't
Yep.
spoken about that yet, but perhaps we can go into that direction now. But
Yep.
having someone who can help them to create, I guess, that new life and move through this transformation period, holding space for them. You've got the background of being passionate because of things that it sounds like you've experienced in your youth as well, which
Yep.
adds to the meaning and the what we give our clients. So can you walk me through, have you got someone, and obviously, for privacy purposes, please
Yes.
feel free to change their name,
Yep.
but, Miss X
Yep.
has found you, someone's referred, her to you. She's overwhelmed, she's stuck, she's lost. It's a lot of anxiety, I imagine. What might be the
Yes.
process? And let's include like the mentorship aspect as well.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So often I find when women come to me who have children, it's traumatic because they have it in their mind they want to keep the family home. So, for example, I had a client, I'll just call her Mary.
Yeah.
She's been living in the family home under the same roof as her husband for 5 years
Mhm.
and has not wanted to go to the lawyer because she's so scared about financially what she can or can't do.
Mhm.
So I've been working with Mary for quite some time, referred her to see a family lawyer. She just kept saying no. But finally, just a couple of weeks ago, she sent me a message and said, I've had an appointment with the lawyer. Now, that's been 5 years. Now, I've been talking to her for a couple of years since we've met. However, we would just sometimes hop on a call together, or she'd call me and say, Lou, I don't know what to do. And so we'd, work through some numbers. Again, she got a part-time job because she didn't have any income. So I said, you need a job. You need to get some sort of a job. So she got a part-time job. So it can start from very fact of a blank canvas a lot of the time with these ladies because they're depleted. They're not sure where they need to start. So we just basically start again and then build them up with their confidence. So Mary is now confident. She's actually got two part-time jobs, which is amazing. So now she's confident. She knows she's got money coming in. She's got savings. And now she's ready to speak to the lawyer, which she's had. And now we're looking at a borrowing capacity 2 years on.
Wow.
So that's just such a great um, story because I know out in the world out there, if she just went over the counter to the bank, she just wouldn't be getting that service. And I just love to nurture them and just be with them and really having them to be, it's okay where they're at and not force them to have this outcome that she wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
Because that's often what I see when they go to the lawyers. It seems like it's got to be this quick transaction and it takes time. The healing takes time. I know that for myself with my mum when she went through it. There's the healing process as well. So it's not just the transaction of getting the loan. It's all about the emotional part. And like I said, the kids come up a lot about, they're worried about, whether how much they should be giving dad access for maintenance. That's another whole, you probably went through that as well, Debbie, about if, like if they're with the dad too much, they get less maintenance. So there's all those sorts of things that they need to speak to Centrelink about. So there's a lot of conversations going on. And like,
Yes.
I don't try and be an expert in all of those areas. However, I just try and guide them to go to the expert if I can't support them in whatever they need.
Yeah, amazing.
So
Yeah,
yes,
I
a long
think
process.
it's
Yeah.
a long process, and it also, I think it's echoing. I help women. One of the things I do is help them to build businesses to get to that
Yes.
first bigger revenue and then beyond. And what I can see is there are some women who want that really quickly, and thank heavens I'm at the point now where I can do that. I can hand
Yes,
do
exactly.
it
Yeah.
quickly. But then also some women like me, I actually wanted it very slowly because
Yes.
my son was young and I was still
Yep.
coming out of the marriage. And unfortunately, as I think everyone has listened to, if you've listened to all my podcast episodes, you'll know I've been on a horrific journey of loss and grief, having lost 6 people close to me
Yeah.
that have
Massive.
transitioned,
Yep.
which is huge. So, working through all of that is part of the process. And what I'm hearing you say, Lou, is speaking to the timing. You didn't use these words, but of your own soul and your life path. There
Yep.
is no rush. But if you
Exactly.
feel rushed, do it. But if you want to take
Yep.
5 years, do that. It's okay as well.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's really great that you shared that because I had one client who her ex-partner desperately needed money
Mhm.
and she wasn't ready. So she felt this pressure from him because they were still talking a little bit. And this is another client who lives in Cairns.
Mhm.
Um, and she wasn't quite ready either because there was a few things we had to get sorted. Her credit file was terrible because he wasn't paying bills. So we had to get the credit file cleaned up, which takes time. Um, and so she was like feeling the pressure that he wanted the money.
Right.
Um, So anyway, we had to delay it a little bit to get her credit right and get her, she had to work more hours. And then we were able to go back. And then probably about 12 months, yeah, about 12 months on, she was then able to get the money that she needed to borrow the money. So there's just so many different scenarios that these amazing women go through and,
Yeah.
just work through the process. Um, and it's also interesting working with different lawyers because a lot of the different lawyers have different ways with the clients as well, which sometimes can be transactional, which can be very blunt because obviously they just want to get the job done. So I am that sort of in between person to just guide them through, those conversations as well.
And I'm curious, do you have it with those lawyers? Because from what I understand, there's a mixture, but still a lot of it is litigious, meaning
Yes.
that you're going to the courts. We went through a collaborative process, which meant that we got to have a mediator sit down with us, and the result wasn't it was favoring the child, and it was
Yep.
working with the parents to say, well, what does that look like? And yes, in most cases, it probably is with mum.
Yep.
But and there are some cases also where, dad's family is more together and dad's got more funds or more time or whatever it is. So it's finding that kind of the sweet spot that works for each family.
Yeah,
Long
exactly.
story
Yeah.
short, have you
Yeah.
also got lawyers that you network with that are
Yes.
collaborative as well? Oh, thank
Yes. But
heavens.
I've
Okay,
got a couple of lawyers that I love working with because they like to try and keep things out of the court.
yeah.
So, obviously mediation is the easiest way to start off with, but
Mhm.
that's not always going to happen.
Yeah.
But there's one lawyer in particular, she's really committed to try and keep things out of the court if you can.
Yes.
Not always happens that way, but it just makes it, one less cost, but less stressful as well. So,
Oh, it's a
um,
huge difference. And I'm sharing it and because I'm very passionate about this because
yeah,
the lawyer that worked with us, as I was saying, I coached her and she set up her own collaborative practice. And I felt so proud to be able to support her. And back then, this was only sort of 5 or so years ago now, or yeah, before COVID. But it wasn't as known. People were still going, what do you mean collaborative? What is that? Or what do you mean out
yes,
of the court?
exactly.
Is that a thing?
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a thing.
Absolutely.
You don't
Yeah.
have to go to the
Absolutely.
courts. You can sort it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
And one
let's
of the other
oh, go ahead.
so
Yes.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to explain one other thing just with the lending. So
sure.
what happens with lending when you have children that are around above 13, they still get what's called the family tax benefit,
Mm-hmm.
which is part A and part B. However, most banks don't recognize that after 13, even though they get it until they're older, because it's going to run out at some stage. However, I've got a couple of banks that will look at that income, which is sometimes the difference to get these ladies across the line with their borrowing capacity and their maintenance as well. So there's a couple of different lenders that we have on our panel that are more favourable for women going through this scenario and then going over the counter to like a major bank or somebody like that because they're not always favourable. So it's a really good point to share because I have so many women who think they can't borrow. Then that's seriously why they don't do anything because they think they can't do it on their own. But let's have a discovery call and work out what they can and can't do.
Yes, I love it. That's beautiful. Can you also share? I mean, I'm guessing it's a bit like any industry, which they're with therapists and coaches, but there's a number of different female lenders, I guess, out there. Why would someone come and choose you over somebody else?
Good question. There's two things that always comes to my mind when I ask this question. One, that I've been around for nearly 20 years, so a long time. Two, that I'm really passionate because I've had a history of going through it with my mum in terms of the divorce and separation. And three, I love to be able to collaborate with referral partners. So it's not just me. I'll be able to, support them through the conveyancer, through the financial planner, I talk to my clients about everything, wills, estate planning, insurance. Even though it's not my business, I'm committed that, when somebody comes to me, the first thing I ask them when they're going through a divorce or separation is who's your super nominated to?
Mm-hmm.
Now, 99% of the time, there's like, I hadn't even thought about that. It's still with my ex-partner.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And super is not part of the estate. So if something happened,
Mhm.
whoever it's nominated to would go to that person.
Yeah.
So there's just a couple of things that I'm really passionate about that I've learnt when I used to work in a financial planning company. Obviously, I can't talk about financial planning because I'm not qualified, but
Right.
I always ask that one question, who's your super nominated to? And it's
Yeah.
a massive thing that gets missed every time.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. It sounds like, and dare I say this word because I know it's out in the market a lot, but it sounds like you take a very holistic approach.
Yes, exactly. That was the word I was looking for.
Yes. No,
Thank
that's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful and comes naturally to me. I'm a former social worker among many hats I myself have worn. And within social work, I was a case manager. So we
Yep.
would liaise with the hospital, the GPs, the psychiatrists, etc. So it's very natural for me to look at things through that lens.
Yep.
But that makes for a very powerful experience for your clients because yes, you have
Yep.
got that holistic lens. Lou, can we go back to when you started as an entrepreneur? And what like when was that and what got you started?
Actually, a really good question as well. So I felt like I was in and out of that when I was working in the corporate space.
Mhm.
And this is why the reason why I left corporate in 2019 was because I would get to a certain level and then would like to do extra things and explore extra ways of doing business, but I was always shut down. So I always felt like when I went into corporate every day that I had like a facade and I couldn't really be myself. So when I left, September 2019 was the day when I left that office was the day that I started being who I wanted to be and really getting into that, entrepreneurship and
Yes.
really discovering like what was available. So when I left corporate, I was never going to be a broker again. I had such a bad experience.
Mm.
Anyway, I had so many people coming to me who were my old clients, and I started thinking, my goodness, I really need to think more about this.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, and it wasn't until the 1st of July 2020 that I registered Abundance and Beyond.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I started working as a consultant with another broker, and then that didn't work out. And then I was like, no, I'm going to give it a go. So from there, that's when I started working, set up my own business again as, under this, lending.
Yes.
Um, and then from there, I was doing some training with a couple of different groups. And then I was asked to get into the mentoring with a company that I work for, West Australia. And I just love working with their team,
Yeah.
where I've got 10 mentees that I look after for 24 months.
Yes.
Um, and then in this whole time, I had a commitment to my dad, who's elderly now, that I would get into politics because he always wanted to get into politics. And around that time when I left the corporate and had a little bit of time off, I started sort of dabbling in politics and still, dabbling in politics as well, yeah. So that's how I got into politics. And
Cool.
then the mentoring of women was just sort of like the add-on in the last 2 years of I was doing it already, but I hadn't really had a structure in place. And then that's when I started working with She Evolve Collective and mentoring women in business. So,
So
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. But I even remember, like, as a young child, probably around 14 or 15 when I wanted a job, I used to say to my mum, I need work. And so I used to go through the newspaper and look for a job,
Yeah.
job vacancy.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to ring when, as a tiny age, would
Yeah.
try and get jobs. Anyway, I got babysitting back in the day when I was younger, but I was always thinking about um, different things that I could potentially do. So, yeah, it's interesting.
You had the entrepreneurial spirit, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
And I was the same because I guess I was in a fortunate position where I didn't sort of have to work, but I got my first job at 15 because I liked being, out of the house and being independent. It took me a few more years to figure out the money side of things. I didn't really understand how all of that
Yeah,
worked, and I wasn't the
yeah,
greatest spender and saver. I kind of had no clue what I was doing, to be honest. But
yeah,
I always had a job in so many different industries. But yeah, I can relate to that very much. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Lou, can you share with us? Let's talk about politics.
yep.
So what are you passionate about? What are you hoping to see changing in our society?
Yeah, I love this conversation. So one of the things that brought me to being passionate about is having two teenage daughters at the time. So one's an adult now and one's still a teenager.
Yeah.
Having the freedom of speech to be able to communicate what you wanted to, communicate in the world and have that freedom of speech. Because I saw in the schools there's a pattern around politics and what they're taught in politics, which for me, I always thought that politics should never be included in schools, but it seems to be there's some conversations around politics with a particular party in schools. And I was like, okay, well then how's that going to leave, this next generation and the next generation to come through if that's what's happening in the schools?
Mhm.
Um, and then obviously, having my own business, I'm passionate about people being in small business, being protected for that as well. Yeah, and I just really want to be able to say that I've, had the opportunity to contribute, and have our say because my dad said, he always used to have an opinion, but he wished he had have always been part of a party because he never was able to share that opinion.
Mm,
So, and that's and like that, being involved with a party's been amazing. I've got all this, a whole other community, and there's so many older people in the community that you just learn so much from as well.
Yes.
So, and I'm committed that there's more women in politics as well. So,
Yes,
yeah,
amazing. Having
yeah,
having our voice spread across different platforms.
exactly, exactly. And I think it's really important that everyone has an equal opportunity and equal view. Um, and I feel like that's not happening out there so much at the moment. They're saying it is, but I just feel like there's some issues out there so that I'd love to be able to contribute more to as well. So
Mm.
yeah,
If you were able to change something because you had that position of power to do so, what would be the number one thing that you would focus on?
yeah, it's a really good point. I would think probably I feel like there's a lot of negativity out there in the world of politics at the moment, and I feel like it appears that most of the leaders are out there for themselves,
Mm,
which they may or may not be, depending on, across the board, there just seems to be a lot more argy-bargy than ever in politics. He said
yeah.
that, she said that, rather than just concentrating on, you know what, Mary, I'm doing this because this is what I'm about, blah, blah, blah. So if I was able to change anything in politics would be the negativity and just focus on the people of Australia and what people need, which, at the moment is cost of living is a killer, you
Yeah.
know. I have a brother-in-law that lives out in the suburbs, and he said so many of his friends and family are suffering because they're on such small salaries and their
Yes.
mortgage is tripled. And the
Yes.
sad thing about mortgages is it only affects 33% of the population. 33% of people rent, 33% of people have either paid their own home off, or
Right.
33% of have a mortgage. So we're only affecting 33% of the population with these rate rises, and they're the ones suffering. And that's just a killer out there in the market right now. So, and I think some areas are a little bit isolated from that. Like, if you're living in a nice area, you may not be aware of that, or if you've got good income. But I see it in my brother-in-law. They are struggling. Having
Mm.
household income of 100,000 with two kids, it's not very much money.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I think a lot of people, unless it directly impacts you, we don't really see it, or unless
Yeah,
you've moved into that personal development space or looking into politics or social connection, it kind of we have our
yeah,
blinkers on. But yet I do think, and it's part of why I love the podcast platform, is we do have a responsibility to socially educate people so that we can do something about it.
absolutely.
You may not have an answer to this question, but what, like someone listening as a layperson who's got a kind heart and goes, "Oh, that's crap," it shouldn't be that way. What can we do to support people who are in that 33%?
I think one of the first things is to have more conversations about it, because I said that to my brother-in-law. I'm like, how are they coping? And he said, oh, well, they're just doing what they need to do and struggling. Um, so I think it's more having conversations, making, the community aware of what people are dealing with.
Hmm.
And then, potentially, more handouts or more offerings. I feel like a lot of people want to be able to give offerings, but they don't know where to go to. I was
Right.
just talking about this yesterday in a networking group. We
Yes.
were all sharing that we're here and who could we contribute to,
Yes.
because we're all fortunate, to be living in a house with, income. And I think a lot of people want to contribute, but they just don't know where to go to.
Yes.
So I think that's a big, well, um, and yeah, I think it's just more having conversations. And I was talking to my dad about this actually the other day. And one thing that's changed, like when my dad was raised as a child, he lived in Oakley,
Mhm.
and he had an auntie around the corner, another auntie around another couple of corners, and the uncle. Everyone was together. Whereas now, some cultures are better than this and others,
Yeah.
but it appears like we're always doing it on our own. Like for me,
Yeah.
all my family's at least 45 minutes, an hour away.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's something around that old-fashioned family structure. It makes a massive difference, cooking together or buying things together. Um, so, I mean, it's probably not going to get back to that because the world's changed, but I think there is a sense of contribution that everyone wants to make but don't know how to do it.
Well, I love what you're sharing. And I'm thinking back to when I moved to this part of Melbourne because I went through a huge trauma and I really just, for my mental health, needed a break from the physical environment because there was just too much loss, too many things, too many memories.
Yes,
And at that
yes,
point, it wasn't even sort of a really kind of mental strategy of like, maybe it should have been, but it wasn't. It was a real kind of soul led, heart led, oh my gosh, we need to get the F out of here. And so I found myself staying on the couch of a friend of a friend of a friend. I was renting a room from her for a couple of weeks just to have the trees outside the window, right? And
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
school drop off and everything else. And then I've ended up staying in this suburb or the suburb next to it. And I ended up along the way meeting my now life partner, and I built my business. And also
Uh-huh.
I built what you're talking about because all of my family and friends were back an hour away.
Yes.
And I think also, I have lovely family and friends from childhood, but I think also maybe almost like carers burnout, like not that they were carers for me.
Yes.
I'd been
Yep.
through so much. It was like, oh, not again, Deb.
Yep.
And so I think I just needed fresh, fresh. So yeah, I built my own community and I've got these beautiful friends, beautiful clients, and we actually do need that, as much as we want to be travelers and virtually connected and freedom and everything else, there is still a part of our psyche that needs to have that sense of community and that sense of belonging. So
Definitely.
some people may not be brave enough or have the skill sets to create that themselves, as I was privileged enough to do so. So then we need to have people, and I'm actually going to put this out because I've mentioned this before. Anyone listening, I run the most beautiful meditation on a Monday morning. I've been running it for over 5 years. It's reached 7 different countries. If you're a woman who is going through challenges and cannot afford anything, please extend the invitation or RSVP yes to my invitation. A full month completely for free. I will not upsell you. I will not try and do anything, not unless you ask me and want to be, want to know more about what I do. But it really opens my heart more and thrills me to be able to have someone jump online and just
Yes.
enjoy that energy and feel the love that's coming through every single Monday while you're going through those challenges. So I'll add the link there as well for anyone listening.
Beautiful.
Um,
Yep.
can you share with us, Lou? Let me find out where I want to take the conversation next. Oh, I know. If you could go back in time and chat to your younger self, what might you say to her?
Oh my goodness, I know this answer straight away is my
Yeah,
belief in myself.
yeah.
Um, Particularly in the corporate space because it appeared that I was never good enough in the eyes of my manager.
Mm,
And even though, I won Broker of the Year and there was a whole lot of different things that I won, it was never good enough.
yeah.
And I wish I had had more self-belief in myself. So not about like the way I look, but the way what I believe in myself and my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Um, because that has been what I've done the work on myself in the last 2 or 3 years, and it has made a massive difference to who I am. And, it takes something to, well, one, acknowledge where you are, and then I had no idea how I was going to get to where I have now. But yeah, it's just been a massive ride in terms of who I am now. And you show up differently when you've got the belief in yourself. You show up differently, and you attract different people. So that was the biggest thing for me, looking back for even just the 5 years since I've started my business, where I've got to in terms of who I've been attracting is
Yes.
totally different, even clients. So I just love reflecting. You can always look at the dots going back, but you can't look at the dots going forward. I love
So
that,
true. I've never heard it put that way, but that is so true. The path
Yeah,
unfolds as you're moving forward, but as a
exactly.
reflection, it's
Yeah,
easy to see it. Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of the work that I do, we do that, not to go back in the past, but just, acknowledge where you've come from.
Yes.
Because then I can support women, through that's how I love supporting women to be able to get them, because you get a sense of when people come to you what they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
We get to see it
Yes.
better on others than ourselves. And some of these women have just got no confidence and self-worth at all, you know? Like one client that I'm dealing with at the moment, who's actually a friend.
Mhm.
So for about 2 years, I've been interrupting her conversations about herself, and she just wasn't ready, and now she's jumped in. But her self-worth and what she believes in herself is terrible, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and when you're in that space of lack, fear, anger, or whatever it is, the expansion doesn't happen very much.
Yeah.
You get to a little bit and then you go back into that shutdown. So
Yeah.
I love to be able to make a difference to women. And, seeing them grow is just extraordinary.
Oh, I love it so much. And it's, you know what, this comes up, I think, every single podcast episode because it's our belief in ourself that changes everything. And I know for myself, I would expand, but then there was so much trauma, I would go back into that fear again. And that was the pattern. And then I feel like now maybe it's an aging thing now, coming to my mid 40s or something about the energy of this year. I know that we're in a 9, which is completion if you are interested in numerology, which I dabble in sometimes. But there's just something that's like this. I'm not going back into that old version of me. I totally back myself. I totally believe in myself. And I feel like that's not going to change. And it's been this way since this year kind of clicked around. So
That is so good.
it
Yeah.
is so good. And, I came from, and
Mm.
I'm sharing it now openly, from childhood sexual abuse, which only came to my attention in my 40s. And in fact, I
Wow.
just recorded an episode with someone who's a international best-selling Penguin author. And in her memoir, she talks about that as well. So I feel to share, because if you're listening, and her and I were sharing the suicidal ideation, she went through it, I
Oh
think,
my
in an acute
goodness.
way, and I
Yes.
went through it chronically. And I didn't know why, but well, now I know why. I wanted
Yeah,
to check
yeah.
out because it was so painful. And thank heavens I didn't, because I would have missed the opportunity to share with women, to create these platforms, to teach women. And also I'm going to boldly add, to enjoy life for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think I love what you're sharing because what I found was I'd become a line in the sand, like
Yeah.
particularly with the corporate space. It was a line in one of the line in the sands where I said no more, because I was so burnt out. I had a daughter at home with dyslexia. One night she came up to me and she would talk to me because I did a lot of work at night at the
Yes.
computer. And she just probably on 2 occasions she said to me, Mum, you're not even listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that was like really hit home to me, like, oh my God, like, she was 9 at the time.
Bless
And
her.
that was one of the tipping points. There was a few tipping points, but that was one of the tipping points that I'm like, no more. This has to stop. So I think when and I share something else that my mum, who I love dearly, has been dealing with anxiety and worried about dying for 50 years. It started when she was about 30, right? So she's 89, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the work that I do, I can interrupt that with my clients, but she's 88 and still worrying about dying. She's been dealing with the same damn thing for 50 years.
50, and not 15, 50. Wow. Yeah.
50. And I always say to my clients, we don't want you to wait until that 88, 89 because it's too late. But, mum didn't have the technology to interrupt it. And I have anxiety myself. So it's not always easy to interrupt. But why I share that is that there is ways to interrupt the things that we've been doing that haven't worked, and there's ways that we can interrupt it and make it work, but you got to
At
be
any
ready to
age.
go no more.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting that you're sharing this, and I'm going to share because I've been very candid on the podcast. My mum, bless her, who did transition when she was 61 and I was 27 and pregnant, she lost her dad when she was 15. And there was probably not a day that went by where she didn't talk about him and how she misses him and missed him. And but I lost my daddy, but I lost my daddy. That was actually the motivation for me to go and learn psychology and become a therapist and
Oh,
have that coach
wow.
and everything. And then it stayed with me that I couldn't save her because she transitioned. She didn't catch,
Yes.
she had
Yeah.
cancer, and we lost her 3 weeks after.
Oh
And I
my
was
goodness.
saying to her, when I was studying psychology, you've lost your daddy. Well, I don't want to lose my mummy. Not that I called her mummy, but I don't want to lose my mummy.
Yeah.
So can you snap
Yes. Yeah,
out?
of course. Of
Um,
course.
she
Yeah.
wasn't able to snap out of it, and she was obsessed with losing her mother. And how it turned out, this is
Wow.
a morbid story, so just a bit of a warning for the listeners.
Wow.
But my nana actually outlived my mum. So my mum was obsessed with something and was fixated on something that never even transpired. My grandmother, bless her, outlived her, and mum left before her. So this
Wow.
thing that she was obsessed with, losing her mother because she'd lost her father, never even happened. It never even
Wow.
happened.
I know.
And then I
It's
was
just
faced with
like,
losing
oh my
mum and
goodness.
nana and everyone going, how am
Wow.
I supposed to survive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we do. I really believe, and I think you feel free to disagree, but I think you'll agree. I don't think that we're given what we can't handle. I think if a soul goes through
Definitely.
thing,
Definitely.
you have to have what
Yeah.
it takes. I just didn't know it until recent years. So if someone's listening and
Yeah.
you're going through a dark night, or what I call my dark decade of the soul, you do
Yeah.
have what it takes within you. And there are people like Lou and myself, and many others in your corner of the world, or in your corner of the virtual world, who can offer you the tools to bring you out, whether you're 828 or 88.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you're sharing. That's just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a wild journey. So before we finish up, lovely Lou, is there anything that you are focused on and really passionate about this year that you want to share with us that we perhaps haven't covered yet?
Yes, there is. So last year I went through breast cancer, and somehow this year, I don't know how it's going to look, but I want to make a difference to women now that I'm free to talk about it.
Yes.
Because I was really present to going through the treatment. I was able to work through it because of the work that I do on myself.
Mm.
But there seems to be a gap with the medical. The medical team are amazing, but seems to be a lack of communication through the process
Yes.
where I asked a lot of questions. But I can see that a lot of ladies would get lost in the system of just, it seems like a transaction, which I know it needs to be that. But my heart says there's something else for me to do with women to contribute to women going through breast cancer.
Yes.
So that's my next calling, but I don't know how that is going to be, but that's what I'm up for this year. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. My beautiful auntie actually went through breast cancer a number of years ago, and she actually wrote a book about it. It's very, very gorgeous, her little book. And there's so many women, unfortunately, I don't know the stats, but who go through it and who I know would be, would learn and gain so much from having someone like you who's been through it and can offer that space to them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd love
please keep
to.
us posted. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I will. 7 out of 10 women gets
Wow.
that's the ratio at the moment in Australia. Australia has the highest rate of breast cancer in the world.
Wow. And I have heard, this is not scientific, but I have heard from a healing and energetic perspective in terms of the chakras and the meaning of the body and the mind body spirit connection, breast cancer can be
Yep,
associated with heartbreak. So if we've been through a lot of
exactly. Yep.
loss, whether that's
Yep.
romantic or something different,
No, exactly. That's what they say. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
it is really interesting what happens. Our bodies are amazing, right? They're telling us and showing us things
Very,
all the time. Okay, let
very
me.
much so.
We spoke before about my amazing self-inquiry model. You had a brief look, and I'm wondering if you can share with us which one is your favorite and why.
Oh my goodness, there's so many beautiful ones there. I think the legacy one really hit home to me.
Cool.
The Legacy Club, is that what it was? The Legacy Club? Yeah.
The legacy self, but whatever comes
Yeah,
up,
the Legacy stuff.
yeah, let us know your
Yeah.
interpretation of it.
I just think, was sharing just about like what I was sharing then. For me, I want to be able to leave a legacy where I'm able to share and contribute to others. That's what I'm a connector. That's why I'm on this earth as a connector, I'm sure. And I just love the thought of, leaving a legacy behind that's something that stands out that I can make a difference, not just now, for in the future. And
Yes.
also, for my girls, I'd love to leave a legacy with my business for them as well.
Yeah.
Which I will be doing. So yeah, just really thinking about how I can impact others even when I'm not here. That's what I got.
Beautiful. Oh, it's making me teary. It feels so like it's your heart speaking. Um, Yeah, and I know some of us and a lot of the women, myself included, in this community have this longing, this feeling to leave something behind. And it's so cool when we know what that actually is in a tangible way, and we can see the fruits of that labor, and then also mapping that back to the energy, because everything for me is energy. Like the physical
Yeah, me
manifestation
too.
is
Yeah,
amazing. But
yeah,
coming from love, unconditional love and
yeah,
compassion and empathy, that's what really
yeah.
just wakes me up every day. So yes, again, keep us posted.
Beautiful.
That's so beautiful. Lucky last question is, what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
Well, first of all, be yourself or be authentic, because everyone loves you to show up who you are,
Mhm.
which was a big thing that I learned along the way as well. And have support, have somebody who's your tribe that's beside you. You can only get so far by doing the same results, and having a mentor, and having the spiritual side around it as well. I think so important, like doing the meditation as well, because we get so much in that 3D world where there's no creation. It's so important to have creation as well. So yeah, they're my little tips.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Lou. What a gorgeous session. Can't wait to have this live on all the platforms. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, darling.
The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.